Expand your vocabulary with our Core 2000 Words ebook. It's free and packed with essential expressions that you'll use on a daily basis. Start building your vocabulary today. Click the link in the description below to download your free Arabic ebook before it's gone.
Hi, welcome to Introduction to Arabic. My name is Alicia, and I'm joined by...
Hi everyone, I'm Yafa.
In this lesson, you'll learn the basics of Arabic writing. First, let's introduce you to the Arabic alphabet.
The Arabic alphabet consists of 28 letters.
There are 3 vowels:
Alif, wa, ya.
The rest are consonants:
ba, ta, tha, jim, dal, ra, za.
and so on. 5 consonant letters are emphatic or hard versions of other letters. They're pronounced deeper in the throat.
Dhad, ha, sad, dha, qaf. Let's talk a little bit about the sequence that they are written in.
Just like how English orders its alphabet in A, B, C, and so forth, there is a proper order in which Arabic letters are sequenced too.
There are actually 2 ways the Arabic alphabet is ordered. One is called abjad and the other hija. For this introductory lesson, just understand that abjad is the older version, while the hija is the newer version that's commonly used in modern-day dictionaries.
So if you had to choose, try to learn the newer version.
Hija. Just like how there are abjad and hija orders of the Arabic alphabet, there are also 2 different styles of writing in Arabic. The first is classical Arabic, the language of the Quran, in the classical literature. It differs from the other type of written Arabic in style and vocabulary, some of which is abandoned now.
The second is modern standard Arabic, the universal language of the Arabic-speaking world, which is understood by all Arabic speakers. It's the language of the vast majority of written material and of formal TV shows, lectures, and so on.
Once again, you can think of them as the old and the newer style.
The biggest difference between these 2 writing styles is that classical Arabic represents vowels, while modern standard Arabic mostly does not. Let's try to draw a comparison to English to better demonstrate this point. Take, for example, a word like cover in English. It's written C-O-V-E-R. This is how you would write it in classical Arabic.
In modern standard Arabic, however, it's customary to omit the vowels. So it will be written CVR in modern standard Arabic.
In this case, the vowels are merely implied. It relies on you to fill in the gaps on your own to come up with the correct word based on context.
This makes learning Arabic more difficult in the beginning, but once you become proficient, it will be like reading in shorthand.
Let's see what it would look like in Arabic.
Take the verb for go in Arabic. Classical Arabic will be written like this. In pronounced, ذهب.
Modern standard Arabic, however, would remove the vowels, so it would appear like this, and be pronounced
ذهب. 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 Vowel text appear in the Quran. They are also used, though with less consistency, in other religious texts, in classical poetry, in books for children, in foreign learners, and occasionally in complex texts to avoid ambiguity.
Modern standard Arabic is used everywhere else, meaning it's much more common. So most of the time, the vowels would not be written at all.
The writing style of Arabic may require some getting used to, because unlike English and other Western languages, Arabic is written in the opposite direction, from right to left.
So, using the previous example,
ذهب. The goes first, followed by ha and then b. While words are written from right to left, numerals are written from left to right instead, so please keep that in mind.
Okay, now that you know that Arabic is written from right to left, let's talk a bit about the different forms of a letter.
As you can see, Arabic is written in cursive. Unlike English, writing cursive in Arabic is not optional. It is always written this way, where letters within a word connect from one to the next.
Each letter is written differently depending on their position within a word. A letter can exhibit up to 4 distinct forms: initial, medial, final, or isolated.
Take the letter B, for example.
This letter is written in the initial form. When it's the first letter in a word, it'll be written like this.
B, بيض.
It'll be written in the medial form when it's wedged between 2 other letters.
باء انطباع.
It'll be written in the final form when it's the last letter in a word.
باء واجب.
And when the letter stands alone, it'll be written using the isolated form.
باء.
Well done! Now let's end this lesson by recapping what we've learned. In this lesson, you learned that there are 28 letters in the Arabic alphabet. 3 of them are vowels and the rest are consonants. Texts using classical Arabic are voweled, but more commonly, everyday Arabic is written using modern standard Arabic, which nearly always has them omitted. You also learned that Arabic is written from right to left, and that there are 4 forms of a letter: the initial, medial, final, and isolated. In the next lesson, you'll be entering Arabic Boot Camp, where you'll learn useful beginner phrases to get you speaking Arabic right away. See you in the next lesson. Bye!
Bye!
If you're learning a language, the words and phrases that will come easiest to you will always be the ones you're interested in, whether it's words with bad or funny meanings or phrases about yourself, such as where you're from or how old you are. So what if you could make your own printable vocabulary worksheets so you could review and practice writing out the words that you're interested in? How to create your own printable vocabulary worksheets. Well, stick around. In today's guide, you'll discover 1. How to assemble your own word and phrase lists, 2. How to create your own printable worksheets, and much more. But first, if you don't yet have access to our language learning system, sign up for a free lifetime account right now. Just click the link in the description to get your free lifetime account. While you're learning the language, you should keep in mind what exactly you want from this language. Do you want to talk about yourself, your hobbies, or understand TV or music? Why? Because you'll naturally learn faster if you're learning about what you're interested in. So, here's how you can assemble your own personal vocab lists. 1. As you go through our lessons on the pathway, you'll likely come across words and phrases you want to remember. You could write them down, or you can send them to the word bank, which is a premium feature where you can store words and phrases for later review. So look for the Add to Word Bank button on the lesson page. 2. You can also save words and phrases from our free vocabulary list to the word bank as well. You can sort through hundreds of vocabulary lists by topics such as weather, hobbies, talking about your day, and more, so you can find words that you're interested in. And then click on Add All to Word Bank. Here's how you can make your own worksheets. Just go to the vocabulary menu and select Word Bank. There, you'll see your collection of words and phrases. Just click on Printer-Friendly version to print them out. You can also click Export Word Bank. If you've organized and labeled your words into categories such as verbs and adjectives, you can select that label and export it as a PDF. Then, go ahead and print the file out. You can use this worksheet to review the words or even write on it. So, if you just want ready-made printable worksheets and cheat sheets, then you can always unlock our free Conversation and Vocabulary PDF cheat sheets and PDF writing worksheets. These resources are free for members of our language learning system. So, if you want to learn the language and get access to these learning tools and our learning system, sign up for a free lifetime account right now. Just click the link in the description to get your free lifetime account. Remember, here's what you can do to learn all of these words by heart. Drill these words with our spaced repetition flashcards, which will help cement these words into your long-term memory. Save them to the word bank, your personal vocabulary collection where you can print out your own study sheets, or review the words with our looped vocabulary slideshow and play it until you know all of the words. So click the link in the description right now and sign up for your free lifetime account to get these lessons and study tools.
أهلاً بكم، أنا كارول. Welcome to ArabicPod101.com's Abjadiyya Made Easy, the fastest, easiest, and most fun way to learn the Arabic alphabet, the Abjadiyya. Over the next 20 lessons, you'll learn everything there is to know about the reading and writing of the Arabic language. By the end, you'll be ready to dive into the world of Arabic literature, make your way through Arabian cities, and really accelerate your Arabic study. Ready to start? Then let's go. The Arabic alphabet contains 28 letters and their variations. Seeing them laid out like this might seem intimidating, but the trick is to take it step by step, letter by letter. Don't worry about how hard it looks now, just stick with me and in a few short lessons you'll see how easy it actually is. I have some really good news for you. Arabic is largely phonetic. This means words are pronounced exactly like they're written. Also, most Arabic sounds have counterparts in English. We'll use this similarity to English to tackle the Arabic writing system. Let's separate the letters into two types. The first type are the Arabic letters that have English counterparts, and the second type are those that don't. In this lesson, we learn two letters needed to write the pronoun I in Arabic. Both of them belong to the first type, so expect them to be really easy to pronounce. Ready? Let's begin. We'll start with Alif. So what sound does this letter make? That's easy. It's just like its English counterpart A in the word apple. Alif is very easy to write. It's basically a vertical stick. Now it's time to take out your pens and pencils. We're going to practice writing. Find some paper and follow along. We'll practice writing them so you can get used to the shapes. Okay, here we go. Alif. Nice! Time for the next letter? Not quite. You just saw the isolated version of Alif. However, Arabic is a cursive language. That means every letter in a word connects to the letter before or after it. So every time I introduce a new letter in this series, I'll also show you how it's written in all its possible positions. Let's get to know the different possible positions for a letter in Arabic. It's always one of four: isolated, initial, medial, or final. Let's look at each of them. Isolated means that the letter has no letters before it or after it. It's the standard form we learned just a few minutes ago. Initial means that the letter lies in the beginning of a word, so it's connected to the letter after it, but has no letters before it. Are you confused because the initial position connects to the letter to the left of it? That's because Arabic is written from right to left. Medial means that the letter is connected from back and front to other letters. And final means that the letter is the last letter in a word, so it's only connected to the letter before it. With the exception of 6 letters, we must learn the 4 possible forms for all the letters in the Arabic alphabet. Those 6 exception letters don't have a distinct medial form and are instead written with their final form without being connected to the next letter. Their initial form is the same as the isolated form. By the way, the letter we learned today happens to be one of those exceptions. That means we only have to learn 2 forms, isolated and final. You already learned the isolated version, so you just need to learn the final version. Let's write it. Alif. Now we will learn the final letter needed to write the word I in Arabic. That's noon. The noon is pronounced just like the English N. Pretty easy, right? It basically looks like a semicircle with a dot on top. Remember that this is the isolated form. Let's write it. Noon. You got lucky with your first letter, but noon requires that you learn all 4 forms. Let's get them all out of the way at once. So we have the initial form for when noon appears at the beginning of a word, the medial form for when it appears in the middle of a word, and the final form for when it's at the end. Now try to write all three. Noon. Great! You've already learned 2 letters of the Arabic alphabet. I think you're ready to learn your first Arabic word. The word you learned to write today is ana. This word means I. The first alif is isolated because it's at the beginning of the word. The second and the third letters, noon and alif, are connected. You may have noticed that the alif at the beginning has a little mark on the top. When alif is at the beginning of the word, we add this mark to it, but it's still the alif sound. There's an exception to this rule, but you can read about it in the lesson notes, and we'll talk more about this mark in a later lesson, so don't worry too much. Now try to write it yourself. Ana. Now it's time for Carol's tips. By now, you must be overwhelmed by all the different variations and exceptions. And you also might be worried about that weird mark in the word you learned today. Don't worry, you don't need to understand everything 100% by the end of this lesson. I'll present the new concepts slowly over the rest of these lessons, and you'll soon find that Arabic writing isn't all that scary. Have you ever heard the Arabic word ab? In the next Abjadiyya Made Easy lesson, you'll learn what it means, and most of all, how to write it. See you there. Salam.
Want to improve writing in your target language? In this guide, you'll discover the top 8 ways to practice and master writing with our lessons and learning program. Let's begin. Number 1, write out the words and phrases by hand. One of the best ways to improve your writing is to simply write more. So write every word, phrase, and sentence that you learn in the lessons by hand in a notebook. You can write out the conversations from the dialogue study tool, example sentences from the lesson notes, and words and phrases from our vocabulary lists. Number 2, take the writing quizzes. With every lesson, you get review quizzes to help you master what you've learned. Just scroll down to the vocabulary section or click on Vocabulary. Click on Take Quiz, and then click on Writing Questions. Number 3, leave a comment on the lesson. After you're done with the lesson, be sure to use what you've learned, whether a new word or a grammar point. Leave a comment in the comment section, and our teachers will review it and give you feedback. Number 4, dictation. Dictation is a study method where you write down what you hear as a way to test both your writing and listening skills. You can do this with any one of our audio and video lessons. This method is recommended for intermediate level learners and above. Number 5, create sentences using newly learned words. You can learn new words with our lessons, the word of the day, the vocab lists, and the core 2000 word list, which gives you the 2000 most frequently used words. And as mentioned before, you can also leave a comment with a practice sentence, and our teachers will review it. Number 6, write short messages to your Premium Plus teacher. Just write out a message and send it to your Premium Plus teacher for review. In fact, as a first step, all new Premium Plus users are asked to write a self-introduction and send it to their teacher. Your teacher will review your work, give you feedback, corrections, and help you improve your writing skills fast. Number 7, get writing assignments from your Premium Plus teacher. You can also get assignments that cover listening, writing, speaking, and even reading from your teacher. These assignments can be tailored to your goals and needs. You get a new one every week, or anytime you're ready for a new one. Number 8, get even more lessons in the lesson library. If you want even more writing lessons, then visit our lesson library, and under Category, choose Reading and Writing. You get instant access to all of the pathways and lessons that will help you master all areas of the language, including writing. You'll get all of our pathways and lessons that are dedicated to helping you master writing. So, if you're ready to finally learn language the fast, fun, and easy way, and start speaking from your very first lesson, get our complete learning program. Sign up for your free lifetime account right now. Click the link in the description. And if you enjoyed these tips, hit the like button, share it with anyone who's trying to learn a language, and subscribe to our channel. We release new videos every week. I'll see you next time. Bye!
أهلا بكم أنا كارول. Welcome to ArabicPod101.com's أبجدية made easy. The fastest, easiest, and most fun way to learn the Arabic alphabet, the أبجدية. In the last lesson, we learned two letters, Alif and Noon. These letters have English counterparts. In this lesson, we'll continue our study of the Arabic alphabet by learning more letters that have English counterparts. Ready to go? Well then, let's get started. In this lesson, we'll learn these three letters. Note how they all look a lot like each other. This will help you memorize them. And because these have English counterparts, we know for sure that they are going to be easy to pronounce. Remember the noon we learned in the previous lesson? There are two differences between the noon and the three letters we're learning in this lesson. The first difference is the number and position of the dots. The second difference is that the isolated version of the noon dips beneath the line like this, while the three letters in this lesson don't. Our first letter of this lesson is ba, and yeah, it makes a B sound. You can remember this because the dot is below the boat shape. Let's study the different ways to write it together. Now you write it. Ba. As we studied in the previous lesson, there are many forms for every letter in Arabic. The letter ba has four possible positions: isolated, initial, medial, and final. Let's see the remaining three: initial, medial, final. Now we'll write them. Ba. That's all there is to ba. Let's move on. The second letter you learn in this lesson is another one that looks like ba. Ta. As you can see, the only difference is in the position and the number of the dots. The pronunciation is like the English T, except you should release your breath with a strong burst of air. Try it. Ta. Here's how to write the isolated version. Ta. This letter also has four possible positions: isolated, initial, medial, and final. Let's see the remaining three. Okay, let's write them. Ta. Now let's finish up this lesson with the third letter of this group. Our final letter is tha. That's like the TH in the English word thief. Pretty easy, right? Tha has three dots on top of the boat-like letter, written in a triangle-like shape. Tha carries an extra letter, so we add a third dot. A third dot like 3. Here's how to write the isolated version. Tha. You're almost there. Here are the remaining variations of this letter: initial, medial, and final. Once you practice writing these a few times, they won't seem so difficult. Tha. Well done! I think you're ready to learn a new word. Can you read this? It's pronounced ab. This is the word for father in Arabic. The first letter is an isolated Alif. We learned that in the previous lesson. Then there's an isolated ba. Pretty easy, huh? Now let's practice writing it. Ab. Now it's time for Carol's tips. Here's a useful reminder for memorizing the characters we've learned in this lesson. For the letter ba, the dot is below the line, and for the letters ta and tha, the dots are at the top. Be sure to add ana and ab to your notebook. We'll be learning new words in each lesson, and by the end of the series, you will have a very useful collection of words that you wrote yourself. In this lesson, we met 3 letters that look alike. In the next lesson, we'll see 3 more letters that look alike. See you in the next Abjadiyya Made Easy lesson. Salam!
If you want to learn more words so you can speak and understand even more of your target language, there is a super simple way to do this. In fact, it's so simple that most people don't even think of it because it doesn't involve language apps, YouTube videos, or your computer. I'm talking about writing things out by hand. How to learn words and phrases by writing them out. And in this guide, you'll discover 1. Why writing words out helps you pick up languages faster. 2. How to use our free PDF workbooks to practice writing, and much more. But first, if you don't yet have access to our language learning system, sign up for a free lifetime account right now. Just click the link in the description to get your free lifetime account. You probably already know that one of the best ways to master a language is through actually using it and practicing it. And that's where writing things out comes in, because you're using the language when you write it down. And on top of that, the physical act of writing helps your brain remember the words much better than seeing them on screen or typing them out. Now, handwriting may feel slow, but by taking it slow, you actually speed up your learning and master the language faster because you engage more of your brain in the process. So, how can you do this? You can apply this trick to any resource that you're using right now by simply copying out the words and phrases that you come across. The more you write them out, the better they'll stick. With our learning system, you can 1. Practice with our free PDF writing workbooks and worksheets. All members get free access to our PDF writing workbooks and worksheets, which are based on common topics like the alphabet, common nouns, adjectives, greetings, and much more. Inside, you learn the most common words and phrases for that topic, and you get plenty of space to practice writing the words out. And in the last section of the workbook, you'll get tested on the words. You'll see the translations of the words, so you'll have to try and remember the meaning in the target language and write it in. 2. Practice writing with the free Word of the Day emails. Every day, we send you a new word to your email inbox. You get the audio pronunciation, sample sentence, and a picture to help it stick. But you can also just as easily write that word down and do that daily, every time the emails come in. And now you have a simple language routine going that you can stick with. Now, if you want to learn a little more than just words, you can 3. Practice writing out the conversations from our lessons. So, if you want to master entire conversations in your target language, you can also copy out the conversations from our audio and video lessons by hand. And this will help you master words, phrases, and grammar rules all at once, since you're not just writing out words, but actual lines. Just scroll down to the dialogue section of a lesson to see the conversation. So, if you want to get access to these learning tools and our learning system, sign up for a free lifetime account right now. Just click the link in the description to get your free lifetime account. Remember, here's what you can do to learn all of these words by heart. Drill these words with our spaced repetition flashcards, which will help cement these words into your long-term memory. Save them to the word bank, your personal vocabulary collection, where you can print out your own study sheets, or review the words with our looped vocabulary slideshow and play it until you know all of the words. So click the link in the description right now and sign up for your free lifetime account to get these lessons and study tools.
أهلاً بكم أنا كارول. Welcome to ArabicPod101.com's أبجدية Made Easy, the fastest, easiest, and most fun way to learn the Arabic alphabet, the أبجدية. In the first two lessons, we covered the 5 letters Alif, Nun, Ba, Ta, and Tha in the Arabic alphabet. Now we're going to take a look at some Arabic letters that are slightly more difficult to pronounce. I'll try to explain them in a simple way. Ready to go? Let's get started. In this lesson, we learn how to read and write 3 letters that look alike. Writing them should be easy, but pronouncing them is the most challenging part. Our first letter is Jim. This one is easy to pronounce. It's somewhere between a G and a J, depending on the accent. For example, Standard Arabic, Syrian, or Egyptian. In Standard Arabic and Syrian Arabic, it should sound like the J in the word jam, while in Egyptian Arabic, it sounds like the G in the word game. They're both quite easy to pronounce though. Now let's handwrite the isolated form. Jim. Here are the initial, medial, and final versions of Jim. Now we'll write them. Jim. The second letter we learn in this lesson is Ha. As you can see, it looks like the Jim, but without the dot in the hook. But of course, it doesn't sound like it. Ha is the first letter of the second group, meaning that it has no counterpart in English. It sounds like the sound you make when trying to cool your mouth and throat after eating something very spicy. The closest English counterpart to the sound is H. The only difference is that it comes from a point deeper down in your throat, just like this. Try it yourself. Here's how to write the isolated version. Ha. Here are the initial, medial, and final versions of Ha. Now we'll write them. Ha. The last letter we learn here is the Kha. This letter, like the Ha, has no English counterpart. Kha is a sound some people make when they laugh. It's also similar to the sound people make when they snore. According to phonetic charts, Ha is pronounced in a deeper part of the throat than Kha. Listen and repeat. Kha. Kha. Both Kha and Ha have no English counterparts. They're a bit tricky to pronounce, so let's practice these 2 letters in some words. First, a word which has Kha is khad. Khad means cheek in English. And one that has Ha is had. Had means limit. Can you hear the difference between khad and had? It might take some time before you can hear the differences clearly, so don't worry about it too much. Here's how to write the isolated version. Kha. Like its 2 friends, it has 3 other forms: initial, medial, and final. Now we'll write them. Kha. Let's learn a word using some of these letters. Taj. Repeat after me. Taj. Taj means crown. That's ta in the initial form, alif in the final form, and jim in the isolated form, disconnected from the alif before it, because as we learned in the first lesson, the alif connects differently. Now let's try writing it. Taj. First, write the ta. The boat connected to the alif, the two dots, then the jim in the isolated form. Nice work! Now it's time for Carol's tips. You may feel that Arabic cursive is difficult and has a lot of rules. It might feel foreign at first, but you'll get used to it if you start reading written Arabic frequently. Practice writing some words from the letters we've learned so far. Try the following. Najaha, meaning to succeed. Jan, meaning side. Hajj, meaning pilgrimage. Good job! Well, that's all for this lesson. We'll continue next time with a few more letters that look alike. Don't worry, next lesson's letters are very easy to pronounce. I'll see you in the next Abjadiyya Made Easy lesson. Salam!
Hey everyone, welcome to the Monthly Review, the monthly show on language learning, where you discover new learning strategies, motivational tips, study tools, and resources. By the way, all the lessons and bonuses you're about to see can be downloaded for free on our website. So click the link in the description right now to sign up for your free lifetime account. Okay, today's topic is how to write 1,000 words in your target language in 5 minutes a day. Now, don't worry, this language learning method isn't as hard as it sounds. But through it, you'll master a ton of words, phrases, and grammar, improve your speaking, and much more, simply by writing for just 5 minutes a day. How exactly? Stick around. Today, you'll discover a simple but powerful tactic for practicing writing, the hidden language learning benefits of writing, and how to write 1,000 words with a special free study tool. But first, if you're looking for new free language resources and downloads, here are this month's new lessons and resources. Be sure to download these now before we take them down in a few days. First, the Giving the Time PDF Conversation Cheat Sheet. This brand new cheat sheet will teach you how to ask for and give the time fluently. Download it for free right now. And second, the Core 2,000 Words PDF ebook. Actually, this PDF ebook is usually not free and is sold at our store, but you can get free access for the next few days and get fluent with the 2,000 must-know words inside. So don't miss out, because this book will go back into our vault soon. To get your free resources, click the link in the description below right now. They're yours to keep forever. Now to today's topic. How to write 1,000 words in your target language in 5 minutes a day. Part 1. A simple but powerful tactic for practicing writing. So, what's this powerful learning tactic that'll help you write 1,000 words? Well, you'll be surprised how simple it is. But the language learning technique is simply copying and writing lines into a notebook, and it's a super easy way to start writing in your target language. Now, you might be feeling underwhelmed. You may now be writing a comment about how you're disappointed now that you know what it is. But if you actually copy things out consistently, this writing tactic can and will help you master a language. That is, if you take action. So why does copying things out work, and what makes it a good language learning strategy? Part 2. The hidden language learning benefits of writing. First, it's super easy to do. Copying out lines, say from a textbook or an article, takes no thinking whatsoever. You don't have to worry about what to write, you just copy. You can do it any time of day, and it's a skill you can practice on your own. Second, writing helps you retain the language. How? The more you interact with the language, the better you remember it. So when writing out words, you're focused on them, and you're reading them at the same time. This helps the information stick. Third, you learn new words, phrases, and grammar indirectly. If you keep up with this daily, you'll always come across new words as you practice with this technique, and writing them out will help you remember them. Fourth, you indirectly improve your speaking and reading skills as well. The words and phrases that you learn and retain this way will of course spill over into reading and speaking and help you speak, read, and understand more of the language. And fifth, you get valuable language output practice. With language learning, you need equal amounts of input, reading and listening, and output, speaking and writing, to truly master a language. Writing is the perfect way to practice output. This tactic works so well that it's a practice among writers, novelists, and even people in advertising. Writers imitate great writers by copying out their work word for word. And by doing this, they get used to a certain style of writing. And the same goes for language. You get used to the language, the structure of sentences, and what sounds natural and what doesn't. Now, how do you apply this copying out tactic? Do you just copy anything? And should you write 1,000 words all up front? The answer to that last question is no, but here's what you do. Part 3. How to write 1,000 words with a special free study tool. First, sign up for our Word of the Day. This is a free study tool, and every day it sends you an email with a new word, along with the meaning and a few sample sentences. Second, open up the lesson when you get it. Review the word and then copy out the word in the sample sentences. And that's it, you're done for the day. This takes 5 minutes or less. Then the next day, repeat the process. Open up the Word of the Day email and copy out the words in sample sentences. To reach 1,000 words in 1 month, you need to write about 35 words a day. And you can do that easily by just copying out the word in a few sample sentences. And through this, you'll learn more words and phrases and grammar. You'll also directly improve your writing skills and indirectly improve your reading and speaking skills. By the way, you can use this tactic with any other resource as well. You can copy out the lesson dialogues in our lessons. You can use your own textbook or online articles. The list is endless. But it's much easier with the Word of the Day because you get daily vocabulary and sample sentences to copy out. You don't have to go looking for things to copy out. So give it a try and let us know how it works out. Thank you for watching this episode of Monthly Review. Next time, we'll talk about input versus output and getting real results from your language studies. If you enjoyed these tips, hit the like button, share the video with anyone who's trying to learn a language, and subscribe to our channel. We release new videos every week. And if you're ready to finally learn language the fast, fun, and easy way and start speaking from your very first lesson, get our complete learning program. Sign up for your free lifetime account right now. Click the link in the description. See you next time. Bye!
أهلا بكم أنا كارول. Welcome to ArabicPod101.com's أبجدية made easy. The fastest, easiest, and most fun way to learn the Arabic alphabet, the أبجدية. In the previous lesson, we introduced 3 letters that look alike, except for some minor differences. Some were totally different. 2 of them were the first 2 letters of the 8 sounds that don't have English counterparts. Do you remember how to write them? Make sure that you feel confident about the characters from past lessons before you move on. In this lesson, we'll continue by learning 2 more letters that look alike. After that, we'll learn a few more words to add to your notebook. Ready? Let's go! Our first letter is Dhal. It's just like the English D. Very easy to pronounce and easy to write as well. Here's the isolated form. Dhal. It's a single stroke. You start from the top and then form a right angle. And that's it, done. Just like the Alif we learned, the initial form of this letter is just like its isolated form, and the medial form is like the final form. Now we'll write it. Dhal. The second letter we learn in this lesson looks like the previous letter, Dhal. It's the Dhal. Note how it does not dip beneath the line. We'll learn 2 letters in the next lesson that dip beneath the line. That's why you should make sure you differentiate between them. This letter is like the TH sound in the word this. Do you remember that we learned another letter corresponding to the English TH sound? It was Tha, and it's pronounced as a silent TH, as in thief. This letter's pronunciation is a voiced sound, the, as in this or that. It's pronounced with the tongue between the upper and the lower teeth. It's quite easy to pronounce. Here's how to write the isolated version. Dhal. Now let's see how it looks like in its other forms. As you can see, it's just like its lookalike, Dhal. The initial form is the same as the isolated, and the medial form is the same as the final. If you know how to write Dhal, then you just need to add a dot to write Dhal. Handwriting time. Dhal. We'll continue learning more letters next time, but for now, let's practice using these letters in some new words. First up is the word Jadd. It means grandfather. That's the Jim we learned in the previous lesson in initial form, connected to the Dhal we learned in this lesson in its final form. Okay, now try writing it. Jadd. Let's start with the Jim. Then connect it to the Dhal. Great job! Let's try another word. Ida means if. We learned the Alif in the first lesson and the Dhal in this lesson. Here you can see that little mark from lesson 1 is now at the bottom of Alif and has changed the sound to an E. Don't worry too much about it for now. Now let's try writing it by hand. Ida. Now it's time for Carol's tips. Handwriting is kind of like a signature in every language, and no two people's handwriting is the same. It's better to learn the basics and the standard form of the alphabet and get used to it first, then develop your own style. Good luck! That's it for this lesson. In the next lesson, we'll meet our next two letters, which look a lot like the letters from this lesson. Salam!
Expand your vocabulary with our Core 2000 Words ebook. It's free and packed with essential expressions that you'll use on a daily basis. Start building your vocabulary today. Click the link in the description below to download your free Arabic ebook before it's gone.
أهلاً بكم، أنا كارول. Welcome to ArabicPod101.com's Abjadiyya Made Easy, the fastest, easiest, and most fun way to learn the Arabic alphabet, the Abjadiyya. In the previous lesson, we introduced some more letters that look alike. We've already learned several, but do you remember how to read and write them? Taking the time to review the lessons will be the key to learning how to write in Arabic. In this lesson, we learned two letters that look alike and also kind of look like the two letters in the previous lesson. Then we'll learn a few more words for you to add to your notebook. Ready to learn? Then let's go. Our first letter is Ra. Its closest English counterpart is the letter R, but it's a different sound that must be learned. Ra. It's not too hard to pronounce though, right? Note how it looks like the Dal, but dips beneath the line. Make sure not to confuse them. Here's the isolated form. Ra. Now let's take a look at the other forms. Just like the Alif, Dal, and Dhal, the letters in this lesson connect differently. The isolated one is like the initial form, and the medial version is like the final one. Now we'll write it. Ra. The second letter we learn in this lesson looks pretty familiar. Zayn. As you can see, it looks similar to the ra, but with a dot on top. In terms of pronunciation, you say it just like the English Z, as in zebra, or Al Jazeera. Practice saying Al Jazeera if you want to practice both the sounds ra and zayn at the same time. It's the perfect word for it. Al Jazeera. Here's how to write the isolated version. Zayn. Start from the top, dip it below the line, then put a dot on top. Done. Now let's take a look at the other forms of Zayn. You can probably guess that the isolated version is like the initial and the medial is like the final. Now let's write it. Zayn. And that's all. Wow, great job today. We'll continue learning more letters in the next lesson, but for now, let's practice using these letters in some new words. First up is the word that uses two of our new letters. Try reading it out loud. It should be easy. It's pronounced jazar and means carrot. The jim is connected to the zayn, but the ra and the zayn aren't connected to each other because they are in medial and final positions. Now let's try writing it. Jazar. Now let's try to write another word. It's rad, meaning reply, like when you're replying to an email or message or someone talking. This verb uses only two letters and both are written like isolated letters. Let's write it. Rad. The last word we have in this lesson is the verb zara, which means visited. Note how all the three letters in this word connect differently, and so they are all isolated. Let's write it together. Zara. Now it's time for Carol's tips. Grouping letters into those with similar characteristics makes memorizing them much easier. Just make sure you don't confuse them. Some letters look very much alike, the only difference is dots and their position. By reading more, you'll get used to the difference between the letters and their pronunciation. Good luck! In the next lesson, we'll be doing a review of the letters we've learned so far. And we'll also give some detailed explanations about the little things we didn't cover in the past lessons, for the sake of focusing on writing and pronunciation. Let's get more in-depth in the next lesson. Salam! أهلا بكم أنا كارول. Welcome to ArabicPod101.com's Abjadiyya Made Easy, the fastest, easiest, and most fun way to learn the Arabic alphabet, the Abjadiyya. In the last lesson, we introduced two letters of the first group that look alike, Ra and Zayn. If you've been practicing, I'm sure you're doing a great job. This lesson will be a great chance for you to review all the letters we learned so far. Let's practice together. First, we'll review the basic rules. In this series, we've classified the Arabic alphabet into two groups. The first one is the group of the letters with counterparts in English language. The second one is the group of the letters that don't have counterparts in English. That means they will be a bit more challenging to pronounce, but remember, practice makes perfect. Letters of the Arabic alphabet have four ways to connect to the letters before and after them: isolated, initial, medial, and final. However, there are letters that don't follow that rule and only have two forms of connection. They are Alif, Dhal, Dhal, Ra, Zayn, Wow. Now let's review the letters we've learned so far. In the first lesson, we learned Alif and Noon. They are the letters you need to form the word ana, meaning the pronoun I. First, we have Alif. Here's the isolated form. And here's the final form. Alif only has two forms, as we've already explained before. Now let's review Noon. Isolated, initial, medial, and final. That's it for the first lesson. Did you remember that the initial form of Alif is the same as the isolated form, and the medial form is the same as the final form? Now let's move on to the next lesson. In the second lesson, we learned ba, ta, and tha. First, we have ba, isolated, initial, medial, final. Then there's ta, isolated, initial, medial, final. Finally, we have tha, isolated, initial, medial, final. That's it for lesson 2. Their shapes look like a boat, remember? Next, let's review lesson 3. In the third lesson, we learned 3 more letters that look alike. Jim, ha, and kha. Here's Jim, isolated, initial, medial, final. Now let's check ha, isolated, initial, medial, final. Finally, we have kha, isolated, initial, medial, final. That's it for lesson 3. Next, let's review lesson 4. In the fourth lesson, we learned Dhal and Dhal. First, we have the Dhal, isolated and initial, medial and final. Now let's check the Dhal, isolated and initial, medial and final. That's it for lesson 4. These letters are 2 of the 6 which only have 2 forms. Finally, let's review lesson 5. In the 5th lesson, we learned Ra and Zayn. These 2 letters also have only 2 forms. First, we have Ra, isolated initial, medial final. Then there's Zayn, isolated initial, medial final. And that's the end of our review for the first 5 lessons. Did you remember most of them? Keep practicing and you'll get better in no time. Now we'll continue with some Arabic writing rules. To be able to read Arabic correctly, you also need to master the voweling system of the Arabic language. Voweling signs are marks above or beneath the letter that adds a vowel sound to that letter. However, vowels in the voweling signs are pronounced shorter than the actual vowels. Let's see the 3 basic voweling signs when used with ba. First, here's the Fatha. The pronunciation will now be ba. Next, this is a Kasra. This is now pronounced as bi. And finally, here's a Dammah. It changes the pronunciation to bu. Now, let's practice writing and pronouncing these basic voweling signs. Akh, brother. Akh, ukht, sister. أخت. جد, grandfather. جد. أنا, I. أنا. أنت, you. أنت. Voweling is very important because it can change a word's meaning. For example, here are two words that have the same letters but are pronounced differently and have different meanings because of the difference in voweling. حر means hot, while حر means free. There are other voweling signs in Arabic, but they aren't as common as the three basic signs we learned in this lesson. We'll go back to them in the next review lesson. Now it's time for Carol's tips. The concept of voweling might feel a bit unnatural to non-native speakers. However, Arabic learners need voweling to be able to read correctly, especially when faced with new words. Native speakers don't need voweling because they know the words and how they're pronounced already. Make sure you master the three signs we learned in this lesson. They will help you read faster and more correctly. Good luck! That's it for this lesson. I hope this has helped you memorize the letters we've learned so far and get a feel of how the voweling system in Arabic works. You did a great job. In the next Abjadiyya Made Easy lesson, we'll learn two more letters of the first group that look alike. See you then. Salam. أهلا بكم أنا كارول. Welcome to ArabicPod101.com's Abjadiyya Made Easy, the fastest, easiest, and most fun way to learn the Arabic alphabet, the Abjadiyya. In the last lesson, we practiced reading and writing all the letters we've learned so far. We also learned the three basic voweling signs in Arabic. From now on, we are going to write the words we learn with voweling, so get ready. Let's go! In this lesson, we'll continue with two letters from the first group, meaning that they have English counterparts, which is good news for us. Those are Sheen and Sheen. Let's start with Sheen. Sheen sounds just like the English S. It's very easy to pronounce. Let's see how it's written. Here's the isolated version. Sheen. Now let's see the rest of the letter forms. Initial, medial, and final. Let's write them. Sheen. The next letter we learn is Sheen. This one is pronounced just like the English sh in the word shovel. This one is very easy as well. It looks just like the Sheen, except that it has three dots on top in a triangular formation, like the Tha we learned in lesson 2. Let's write it down in the isolated form. Sheen. Now let's see the rest of the forms. Initial, medial, final. Here's how to write them. Sheen. Note how Seen and Sheen dip underneath the line when they are in the isolated and final forms, just like the noon we learned in the first lesson of this series. Now let's learn some words using these two letters and the letters we learned before. First, we have sir, meaning secret. Seen is in the initial form with a kasra beneath, connected to ra in the final form. Here's how to write it. Sir. The next word we have is shariba. It means to drink. Sheen is in the initial form with a fatha on top, connected to ra in the final form, with a kasra beneath, then ba in the isolated form. Writing time. Shariba. Now it's time for Carol's tips. Taking note of letters that dip beneath the line and letters that don't can help improve your handwriting. The letters we learned so far that dip beneath the line are ra, Zayn in all their forms, and noon, Seen, Sheen in their isolated and final forms. Also, it's best to practice on lined paper, not blank paper, for more structured handwriting. Next time, we learn two letters that look alike. However, they are challenging to pronounce. I'll get you through them in the next Abjadiyya Made Easy lesson. Take care. Salam. أهلاً بكم. أنا كارول. Welcome to ArabicPod101.com's Abjadiyya Made Easy, the fastest, easiest, and most fun way to learn the Arabic alphabet, the Abjadiyya. In the last lesson, we learned two more letters of the first group that look alike. I hope you remember how to read and write them. In this lesson, we learned two new letters that look alike, but they are in the second group, which means they are a bit challenging to pronounce. But remember, with practice, nothing is impossible. At the end of the lesson, we'll look at some new words and phrases to add to your notebook. Ready to learn? Then let's go. The first letter we have in this lesson is Sad. The Sad is basically the strong version of the Seen we learned in the last lesson. And it kind of sounds like the S in the word saw. This sound is pronounced with your throat constricted. Listen to Sad and Seen with the vowel Alif we learned in the first lesson. Saw, sa. Hear the difference? You'll have to do this for a few more letters later on, so please get used to using your throat like this. Let's write it down in the isolated version. Sad. Here are the initial, medial, and final forms of this letter. Now we'll write them. Sad. The next letter we learn is Dad. This one is like a strong version of the Dhal, kind of like the D in the word daughter. It looks just like the Sad, except that it has a dot on top. The difference between this letter and Dhal is the same as the difference between Sad and Seen, with your throat constricted. Dad. Here's how to write it in the isolated form. Dad. Now let's check the rest of the forms. Initial, medial, final. Here's how to write them. ضاد. These two letters also dip underneath the line when they are in the isolated and final form, just like these other letters. Do you remember them? Now, let's learn two new words which use the letters we've learned so far. Our first word is sabr. It means patience. Sad is in the initial form with a fatha on top. Then we have the ba in the medial form without voweling, connected to ra in the final form. Here's how to write it. Sabr. Our next word is darar. It means damage. It's dad in the initial form with a fatha on top, followed by ra in the final form with a fatha on top, and ra in the isolated form. Let's see how we write this word. darar. Now it's time for Carol's tips. One of the most challenging things in learning a new language is having to learn how to pronounce letters that don't exist in your own language. It takes time to learn, but it's possible with constant practice and listening to how native speakers pronounce these letters. Are you ready for your next challenge? We'll be learning 2 more letters from the second group in the next Abjadiyya Made Easy lesson. I'll see you then. Salam! أهلاً بكم أنا كارول. Welcome to ArabicPod101.com's Abjadiyya Made Easy, the fastest, easiest, and most fun way to learn the Arabic alphabet, the Abjadiyya. In the last lesson, we learned 2 letters in the second group that look alike. In this lesson, we learn another set of similar letters from the second group. I know how frustrating it is to learn letters that are hard to pronounce, but don't worry. There aren't many left in that group. Ready to learn? Then let's go. The first letter we have in this lesson is Ghayn. It looks like a mirror image of the number 3, but it dips beneath the line in the isolated and final forms. Ghayn doesn't sound like any other letter in the Arabic or English alphabet. The sound comes from a very deep part in the throat. Let's practice it together. Repeat after me. Ghayn. Let's write the isolated form. Ghayn. Now let's see the other forms of Ghayn. Take note how they all look a bit different. Initial, medial, final. Let's see how we write them. Ghayn. The next letter we learn is Ghayn. This one is like the French R. It looks just like the ayn, except that it has a dot on top. Its sound is similar to the sound you make when you gargle, a sound that comes from a point deep in the throat. Listen carefully. Ghayn. Let's write it down in the isolated version. Ghayn. Now for the rest of the forms, initial, medial, and final. Let's write them down. Ghayn. Now let's learn some words using these two letters combined with some of the letters we learned before. Our first word is abra, meaning through. Ayn is in the initial form with a fatha on top. Then we have the ba in the medial form without voweling, connected to the ra in the final form with a fatha on top. Let's write it. Abra. The next word is ghadr, which means betrayal. Ghayn is in the initial form with a fatha on top, connected to a final Dhal with no voweling, then ra in the isolated form. Let's write it down. Ghadr. Now it's time for Carol's tips. In this lesson, you learned the letter Ayn. Ayn is also the Arabic word for eye. For example, the expression al-ayn bil-ayn was sin bis-sin means eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. Great job in making it this far. Next time, we'll be having another review lesson and we'll learn more voweling signs. I'll see you in the next Abjadiya Made Easy lesson. Take care. Salam. أهلا بكم أنا كارول. Welcome to ArabicPod101.com's Abjadiya Made Easy, the fastest, easiest, and most fun way to learn the Arabic alphabet, the Abjadiya. Congratulations! We're done with the hardest letters in the Arabic language, so you can expect the next lessons to be much easier. But first, we'll have a review. In the past 4 lessons, you learned several letters with sounds that you have never heard or pronounced before. Do you remember the letters we learned in lesson 7? They were Sheen and Sheen. Both of them are very easy to pronounce. First, we have Sheen, the isolated form, and the other 3 forms: initial, medial, final. Now let's review Sheen. Isolated, initial, medial, final. That's it for lesson 7. Now on to lesson 8's letters. In lesson 8, we learned Sad and Dad. Here's the Sad. Isolated, initial, medial, final. And then the Dad. Isolated, initial, medial, final. Next, let's review lesson 9. We learned ta and dha. First, we have the ta, isolated, initial, medial, final. Now here's the dha, isolated, initial, medial, and final. And now here are the letters we learned last lesson. Ayn and Ghayn. First, let's review Ayn, isolated, initial, medial, final. Finally, let's see Ghayn one more time. Isolated, initial, medial, final. That's it for these lessons. Did you remember most of them? Keep practicing and you'll get better. Now it's time to learn another voweling sign. In the previous review lesson, we learned the Fatha, Dammah, and Kasra. In this lesson, we will learn the Shadda. Unlike in English, to repeat the same sound twice in Arabic, you don't use the same letter twice in a row. Instead, you use the Shadda symbol. So, if you see a symbol that looks like a 3 on its side on top of a letter, then it means that that letter is to be pronounced twice. The Shadda could also be used in combination with the Fatha, Dammah, and Kasra. First, here's how the Fatha Shadda combination looks like when used with ba. And here's the Dammah Shadda combination. Finally, here's the Kasra Shadda combination. Take note that the Kasra is put below the Shadda and not the letter like when it's used on its own. Also, make sure that you don't confuse it with the Fatha Shadda combination, wherein the Fatha is on top of the Shadda. Now let's learn how to write and pronounce some new words that use Shadda. Barrad, refrigerator. Barrad. Habbar, cuttlefish. Habbar. Sabbar, cactus. Sabbar. Attar, spice dealer. Attar. Now it's time for Carol's tips. Keep writing the words and letters we've learned so far so you don't forget them. Also, try combining random letters and pronouncing them. It doesn't have to make sense in Arabic, but remember to use the correct form of the letter, whether it's in the isolated, initial, medial, or final form. Add in some voweling signs for even more challenge. That's it for this lesson. You've done a great job getting this far. Next time, we'll be back to learning 2 new letters. I'll be waiting for you in the next Abjadiyya Made Easy lesson. See you then. Salam. أهلا بكم أنا كارول. Welcome to ArabicPod101.com's Abjadiyya Made Easy, the fastest, easiest, and most fun way to learn the Arabic alphabet, the Abjadiyya. In the last lesson, we did a recap of lessons 7 to 10, where we covered the most difficult letters in the Arabic alphabet. I hope you remember how to write and pronounce them. In this lesson, we learn 2 new letters which are a little easier to pronounce and write. Plus, they also look alike. Ready to learn? Let's go! The first letter we're going to learn today is fa. Fa is pronounced just like the English F. Notice how this letter has 1 dot on top of the circle-like part because the next letter will look a bit like it, but not quite. Let's write the isolated form. Fa. Here are the other forms of fa. Initial, medial, final. Now it's time to write them. Fa. Let's move on to the second letter, qaf. The qaf looks a bit like the previous letter fa, except it has 2 dots and a shorter and more curved tail. It also dips beneath the line. Think about the word call and notice how it comes from deep in the throat. It's a stronger version of the letter K, said with the throat constricted like in sad and dad. Now let's handwrite the isolated form. Qaf. Here are the initial, medial, and final versions of qaf. Now we'll write them. Qaf. That's it for our 2 letters. Now let's learn a couple of words using them. Our first word is farah. This word can mean 2 things, happiness or wedding. Fa is in the initial form with a fatha on top, ra in the final form, also with a fatha on top, and then a ha in the isolated form. Let's write it. Farah. Let's learn another word. Farq means difference. Here we have a fa in the initial form with a fatha on top. Then we have a ra in the final form, followed by a qaf in the isolated form. Here's how to write it. Farq. Now it's time for Carol's tips. While we are learning some very useful and important words along the way in this series, I hope you are also seeking out other opportunities to read, write, speak, and listen to Arabic. Check out the full range of ArabicPod101.com's lessons for more materials. I hope you're enjoying learning how to write this beautiful alphabet. In the next lesson, we'll introduce 2 important letters in the Arabic language, and they also look similar. I hope you're excited. See you in the next Abjadiyya Made Easy lesson. Take care. Salam. أهلاً بكم أنا كارول. Welcome to ArabicPod101.com's أبجدية made easy, the fastest, easiest, and most fun way to learn the Arabic alphabet, the أبجدية. In the last lesson, we learned 2 new letters in the Arabic alphabet. Do you remember how to write and pronounce them? Remember to keep practicing. In this lesson, we learned 2 new letters of the first group that will be very easy to write and pronounce. They also kind of look alike. Ready to learn? Then let's go. The first letter we're going to learn today is kaf. The kaf is pronounced just like the English K. Here's how to write the isolated form. Kaf. Let's look at the other forms of kaf. Initial, medial, final. Note how the isolated and final versions of this letter are very different from the initial and medial versions. The first 2 look like a hook with a little mark inside, while the second 2 look like an arrowhead pointing to the left. This is one of the few letters in Arabic that have very different forms, depending on their position in the word. Now we'll write them. Kaf. Our second letter for this lesson is lam. It looks a bit like the previous letter, kaf, in its isolated and final forms. The lam sounds like the English L. Very easy to pronounce, right? Now let's handwrite the isolated form. Lam. Here are the other forms of lam. Initial, medial, final. Okay, let's write them. Lam. Can you see the main differences between the 2 letters we learned in this lesson? There are 2 main differences between kaf and lam. The kaf doesn't dip underneath the line, while the lam in its isolated and final form does. The other difference is the little mark in kaf. Great job! Now let's take what we've learned so far and look at some examples that we can write. The first word is kataba. It means to write in the past tense. Kaf is in the initial form with a fatha on top, followed by a ta in the medial form, again with a fatha on top, and then a ba in the final form, also with a fatha. Let's try and write it together. Kataba. The second word is fa'ala. It means to do in the past tense. Here we have a fa in the initial form, ayn in the medial form, and a lam in the final form. Just like the previous kataba, all of the letters have a fatha. Let's write it down. Fa'ala. Now it's time for Carol's tips. When practicing your Arabic writing at home, it's a great idea to sound out the words as you write them. This helps you get used to reading Arabic letters and saying the sounds out loud. For learners, pronunciation is more challenging than writing. If you've been silent up to this point, try to say the words from this lesson now. كتب, فعل. If you're not used to saying Arabic, you'll probably make a few mistakes, but that's all part of learning. In the next lesson, we'll continue learning a few more easy letters from the first group, the one that has English counterparts. I hope you're excited. I'll see you in the next Abjadiyya Made Easy lesson. Take care. Salam. أهلاً بكم أنا كارول. Welcome to ArabicPod101.com's Abjadiyya Made Easy, the fastest, easiest, and most fun way to learn the Arabic alphabet, the Abjadiyya. In the last lesson, we learned the kaf and lam. Do you remember how to read and write them? I hope you're ready to move on. In this lesson, we're going to learn one new letter from the first group and review one which we have tackled in the first lesson. They are Meem and Noon. Note how kaf, lam, Meem, Noon are arranged just like in the English alphabet, K, L, M, N. This should make it easier for you to memorize the Arabic alphabet. Now let's start with our first letter, Meem. This letter sounds just like the English M, and it should be pretty easy to pronounce. Let's write it in the isolated form. Meem. Now let's see the other possible forms. Initial, medial, final. It's basically a circle, and the way it connects to the letters around it depends on its position. Here's how to write them. Meem. Now let's see the next letter. It's Noon. We learned Noon at the beginning of the series, together with Alif, in order to form Ana. Do you remember what Ana means? Right, it means I. The Noon sounds just like the English N. Let's remember how to write it together. Noon. Here's the isolated form. And here's the initial form. Here's the medial form. And then the final form. Do they look familiar? I hope you remembered them. Now, let's learn a couple of new words using Meem, Noon, and some letters we've previously learned. Our first word is makan, meaning place. Here we have a Meem with a Fatha on top, connected to a kaf. Then we have an Alif in the final form because it doesn't have a medial form. After this is Noon in the isolated form because it cannot be connected directly to the Alif. Let's learn how to write it together. مكان. For our next word, we have nar. This means fire. Noon is in the initial form, connected to a final alif, which, as we've seen, does not connect to the letter after it. So for the last letter, we have an isolated ra. Let's write it. Nar. Now it's time for Carol's tips. Unlike a few years ago, it's very easy to see how real Arabs write by using social media. Find some people to follow on Twitter or Facebook and see how much you can read. It may be a little too advanced for you at this point, but you can start getting used to common words and expressions used in the Middle East today. We're almost done. In the next lesson, we'll continue learning a few more easy letters from the first group. I'll see you in the next Abjadiya Made Easy lesson. Take care, salam. أهلاً بكم أنا كارول. Welcome to ArabicPod101.com's Abjadiya Made Easy, the fastest, easiest, and most fun way to learn the Arabic alphabet, the Abjadiya. In the last lesson, we learned Meem and Noon, which comes after Kaf and Lam, just like K, L, M, and N in the English alphabet. In this lesson, we learned two letters that are going to help you to better understand an important aspect of the Arabic language, feminine and masculine words. These should help you conjugate verbs and adjectives easily. These two letters are ta and ha. Are you ready to write them? Then let's go. Let's start with our first letter, ha. This letter sounds just like the English H, and it should be very easy to pronounce. Try it. Ha. Let's write it in its isolated form. Ha. Let's look at the other forms of ha. Initial, medial, final. Unlike the ta and the dha we learned in lesson 9, every version of this letter looks different. Pay attention. Here's how to write them. Ha. The next letter for this lesson is ta. As you can see, it looks very similar to the previous one, but it has two dots on top. This letter can only exist at the end of a word. This means that it can only be in the final or in the isolated form. Both forms are written just like their look-alike letter, ha, but with the two additional dots. Ta can also be tricky because its pronunciation varies depending on its position in a sentence. It can be either an H or a T. The rule of thumb is that as long as the word is pronounced alone and not in a sentence, then it's pronounced as an H. Let's try writing ta. Isolated, final. When you see this letter appearing at the end of any word, it means that this word is feminine, be it a noun or an adjective. Keep this in mind because it's going to help you a lot when you start learning Arabic grammar. And that's it for this lesson's letters. I hope this wasn't too complicated. Now, let's learn a couple of new words using the new letters we've just learned. Our first word is sahl, meaning easy. Here we have an initial seen with a fatha on top, connected to a ha in medial form, which is connected to lam in the final form. Let's see how to write it. Sahl. Next we have lugha, a very important word meaning language. Lam is in the initial form with a Dammah on top, connected to a medial Ghayn with a Fatha on top, connected to a ta in the final form. Let's write it. Lugha. Now it's time for Carol's tips. You may be thinking that we've already learned ta in an earlier lesson. You're right, in the second lesson we learned ta, which looks like this, remember? The name is the same and it's pronounced the same. So why do we even have this new ta? It's because the ta we learned in this lesson is used as a grammatical marker. Like I said before, when a word ends with this letter, it means it's a feminine word. So you may be confused about it now, but when you get into more complicated Arabic grammar, you will find it very helpful. Great! We've covered a lot in the previous lessons, but don't worry if you can't remember some of the minor details, because we'll be reviewing everything we learned in the next Abjadiyya Made Easy lesson. Take care, salam!
Expand your vocabulary with our Core 2000 Words ebook. It's free and packed with essential expressions that you'll use on a daily basis. Start building your vocabulary today. Click the link in the description below to download your free Arabic ebook before it's gone.